Welcome back. This is Dr. Jin Sung, where clinical excellence meets excellent results. The 3-day water fast. Clean the brain and reset your energy. Updated for 2025. Now, I did a 3-day water fast video about 2 years ago, and it garnered a lot of interest. So we fine-tuned it this year, and we're going to go over some of the questions that were mentioned in the comments and the do's and don'ts of a 3-day water fast. So let's get right into this video. The benefits: improves immune function, repairs, and there's a removal portion of damaged tissue or cells, including pathogens, reduction of inflammation, decrease autoimmune disease, improve gut microbiome, and improve gut integrity, improves insulin sensitivity. And there are other benefits, and we'll get into that during the 3-day portion. Now, you definitely want to consult a physician when you want to do a 3-day water fast. If you're insulin dependent, you definitely want to consult a physician. If you have hypoglycemia, what this means is that you tend to have low blood sugar issues. You're that individual who misses a meal, gets shaky, irritable, agitated, hangry, right? So you want to be very careful with those hypoglycemic patients. If you're on multiple medications, you still need to be cautious, especially blood thinners and things that modulate your immune system. Gastritis. If you have gastritis, if you go beyond 24 hours, you might get increased burning in your stomach. So you definitely want to do some gut healing protocols prior to doing a 3-day water fast. Now, what can you have during the 3-day water fast? You drink water. You can use distilled water, reverse osmosis water, okay, or even basic mineral water. You can drink about half of your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should drink about 75 ounces of water per day, okay, during the fast. You definitely want to add minerals, so you can use Redmond's salt. You can use a pink salt or Himalayan salt, or you can get a mineral packet and add it to the water. Now, you don't want to get a flavored mineral packet because the flavor itself may stimulate your hunger. So you want to be careful with that. So unflavored minerals would be best, okay? So let's get into the 3-day benefits. Now, 8 to 12 hours, what's going to happen is that you're going to start depleting your glycogen stores and decreasing your glucose levels, okay? You're going to have a decrease in insulin because insulin is what takes the sugar into the cells. You'll have an increase or bump in glucagon, cortisol, human growth hormone, and adrenaline. So if you look at this picture, insulin takes it into the cells, and the other 4 hormones here will help balance out your blood sugar when you are lacking calories or sugar. You will start to increase your ketones slightly, and you're going to have hunger pangs. So you start to feel hungry, you want to eat, and so forth, right? There's a hormone called ghrelin, which is produced in the stomach, and to a smaller extent from the small intestine and the pancreas, that signals your brain and tells you that you're hungry. So there will be a bump in this hormone, okay? During the first 8 to 12 hours, you can exercise normally. There's no issues. You can do your normal workouts, okay? Now, going into 18 to 24 hours, you're going to start to deplete your glycogen stores, right? You're going to deplete the storage of glucose in your muscles and so forth, and you're going to start the process of gluconeogenesis. This is where your body will start to produce, or your liver will start to produce glucose as glucose level starts to drop. There will be an increase in autophagy. Autophagy is basically clearance of, let's say, proteins or bad proteins, let's say in your brain. And mitophagy, that is the clearance of damaged mitochondria in the cells. So you're going to have an increase in autophagy and mitophagy. You'll start to decrease inflammation. So inflammatory loads will go down because you're not taking in these dietary proteins that might cause inflammation in our system. your ketones will start to rise. 0.5 to 1 is approximate. Now, everyone's ketone levels or the ability to get into ketosis is a little bit different. So if you're someone who's, let's say, carnivore or on a ketogenic diet, you're going to get into ketosis a little bit faster than individuals who've been into like junk food and so forth, right? So everyone's a little bit different, but approximately 0.5 to 1. You can use those little ketone meters that check for your ketone levels first thing in the morning. See if you're in ketosis. You'll start to increase brain-derived neurotropic factors, and you'll start to increase your growth hormones, which is good for healing, right, and rebuilding. So you're going to start improving your brain function or cognitive function. Maybe you have a little bit of brain fog that'll start to clear out a little bit as we get into 18 to 24 hours of fasting. The brain becomes a hybrid. Basically, it starts to utilize not just glucose for fuel, but ketones. So we want to be able to have that metabolic flexibility to use ketones and sugar when needed, so your brain can function better. So people who are, let's say, diabetic or people who have brain fog, when you switch them from glucose utilization to ketone utilization, they all of a sudden will start to say, wow, this film that I had in front of my eyes, this brain fog starts to lift and everything looks clearer. So it's very important. The brain needs to become a hybrid in these individuals. In day 2, you're going to have continued improvement of brain-derived neurotropic factors and human growth hormone. You're going to increase autophagy, and this is where you start to get a little bit deeper. Now, autophagy happens all the time, right? It's not just for fasting. Autophagy happens when you sleep, post-exercise, and so forth. However, you can get and trigger a deeper autophagy as you do the fasting components of this. Now, you could start clearing proteins in the brain like tau, amyloid, Lewy body, alpha-synuclein, even primed glial cells or microglia. The benefits of this is that these are associated with things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia, concussion, post-traumatic stress individuals. So it helps to clean out some of these aggregates in our brain. Mitophagy, the ability to clear out basically damaged mitochondria, improving your function and efficiency of energy production. It starts to break that insulin resistance. So people who eat all the time, your blood sugar is always high, even in fasting states. So it starts to break that insulin resistance or even diabetes. And then you'll decrease your fatty liver. So a lot of people will have what we call non-alcoholic fatty liver. And it's really because you have too much sugar in your diet. And then if you have a high sugar and high saturated diet, then it's going to exacerbate the fatty liver. So if you go into the day 2, you're going to decrease your fatty liver. At this point, you're going to use 90 to 95% of ketones as fuel, right? So you're using very minimal glucose. Your body will still produce glucose through the liver through gluconeogenesis, but this is where you start to really utilize your ketones and you really start to get the benefits of the fast. You're going to decrease your hunger. So in the early phases, you feel really hungry, you want to eat something, but around day 2, for most people, they'll go, I'm not even hungry. I feel a little bit better. My brain fog has lifted some. Your ketones will be approximately 1.5 to 3. Now, everyone, again, is going to be different in terms of how fast they get into ketosis, but that's what's going to happen. It also stimulates AMPK, and this is important for sugar dysregulation. AMPK can be stimulated with things like berberine, even fish oil. So you can help AMPK through fasting. Repress mTOR. Okay, mTOR will basically decrease protein aggregates like these things that we talked about over here. and then also stimulates autophagy even further. So there are a lot of benefits that really start to kick in day 2. And day 3 will be a continuation of day 2, obviously. But this is where you start to reverse some chronic diseases, reverse some autoimmunity, improve immune function, increase stem cells. Now, stem cells will differentiate into other cells. So improving or increasing stem cells is very important for healing, right? It also improves glutathione. The way it does that is, if you're not taking in these dietary proteins that cause inflammation, or what we call reactive oxygen species, then you're going to improve your glutathione stores and recycle them, okay? So there are many benefits going into day 3. Now, obviously, you can go even further into day 4 and day 5, but you do want to be careful. You don't want to go ahead and do this blindly. And we'll go over some of the do's and don'ts on the next section over here. So it's important that when you break the fast, you do it appropriately. So when you break the fast, you might want to start off the first day with just a little bit of MCT oil because you're already in ketosis. So MCT, or good fat, would be a good start. Then you can add in some bone broth and vegetable broth later on. Fermented foods and cooked vegetables would be best. And then maybe a small amount of protein later in the day. So the idea in the first day is to eat small portions and just start slow with a fat, some broth, fermented foods, cooked vegetables, and then later on in the day, maybe small amounts of protein. Small meals in the first day, okay? So in order to prep for a 3-day fast, so not everyone is capable of going into a 3-day fast immediately. So what you want to do is start eating cleaner, have good dietary fats as well as protein for about a week. So you want to be able to be adapting to a cleaner diet initially. Then you can do intermittent fasting of an 8-hour window of eating and 16 hours of fasting. Okay? Then you can progress to what we call OMED, or 1 meal a day. Then into a 1-day, 2-day, and a 3-day fast. You definitely want to be more keto adaptive. So it's important to check to see if you are in ketosis during intermittent fasting or OMED before going into prolonged fasting. Now, remember, you have to be very careful if you have hypoglycemia. If you have hypoglycemia, you cannot do a 3-day fast immediately. You need to be more fat and protein adaptive, keto adaptive, and then you do some intermittent fasting and see how you progress, okay? Now, for women, ideally, because you have a menstruation, the first day of a bleed is day 1, right? So you're menstruating, you have heavy flow, let's say you're somewhat depleted. So maybe avoid the first 5 to 6 days after your period starts. Okay. Ideally, I think, and this is my opinion, day 7 through 14 would be ideal for most women if they're going to do a prolonged fast. And the reason is that around day 14, you're going to have a bump in progesterone, and bump in progesterone is going to help you menstruate. So we don't want to mess with your hormone cycle and then create issues with irregular menstruation. So ideally, during the heavy bleeding period, you might want to avoid it because you're somewhat depleted. Also, if you're iron deficient, you got to be very careful. So you want to check for iron deficiency anemia. So again, my opinion, day 7 through 14, I think probably would be the ideal time frame for most women. Iron deficiency we talked about. Breastfeeding women have to be very careful. You can't. I don't recommend breastfeeding women to do a 3-day fast. So you shouldn't do that. When you are around or above the age of 40, around that perimenopause, menopausal age, you want to be careful because your adrenal health matters. So if you're going fasting and you have hormone dysregulation around that time, you definitely want to make sure your adrenal health is optimal. So when you go in from menstruating to non-menstruating, what happens is that the hormones that are produced in your ovaries, your adrenal glands start to take up the slack. So adrenal health is very important when you do fasting, especially when you have hormone dysregulation around that perimenopause going into menopause. So you definitely want to check that, okay? Now, some Q&A stuff. You can use spring water, distilled water, reverse osmosis water. Half your body weight in ounces is a good starting point. So if you're 150 pounds, about 75 ounces of water per day. You want to add in red mint salt, sea salt, or pink salt to your mix. Is coffee and tea allowed? Yes. I prefer not to because caffeine can be stimulatory. So ideally, I would say no caffeine, no multivitamins, none of that. But is it allowable? Yes. It's not going to break the fast. You have a multivitamin, we say yes. If you have a fast metabolism, you have to be careful. So we have some people who are very lean. They burn through calories very, very quickly. And if they skip a day, they can be in trouble. So if you're that individual who works construction, very lean, and working hard all day long, you're not going to do a 3-day water fast. Will muscle loss occur? Yes, minimally, right, over a 3-day period. But if you exercise on your first day and then do very mild calisthenics, day 2 and day 3, you're going to have very, very minimal muscle loss. And if you do, you'll gain that back very quickly if you just do maybe 3 to 5 days of exercise after you break the fast. So I'm not really concerned about this muscle loss aspect of it. Is coconut water good during the fast? No, because it has sugar. If you have anything with sugar, it's not going to be good for the fast. For the people who are malnourished, so if there are people who are alcoholics, they'll be depleted in their B vitamins and other nutrients. You definitely should not go into a 3-day water fast doing that. You have to get somewhat healthier in order to do that. People who have eating disorders, obviously because of psychological issues, you don't want to do a fast like that. And then when you break the fast, you don't want to revert back to your old habits of eating chips and junk food and so forth. You want to try to eat a healthy lifestyle. So an anti-inflammatory diet or an autoimmune paleo diet would be great to get you back into healthy living. And then utilizing common sense, things like sleep, stress reduction, and all those other things that you need to do in your life to make yourself healthy. So it's very important to get back to healthy habits once you break the fast. All right. Now, I'd like you to kind of post your comments on what your experience has been with the 3-day water fast, and ask additional questions in the comments below. All right. My name is Dr. Jin Sung, where clinical excellence meets excellent results, and we'll see you guys next week on the healthy side. Have an awesome day.